With 1,132 million speakers of English language and 440 speakers of French language, New World TV presents to you your favorite program, the Daily Trend Francophone Edition, season finale. And here we'll be discussing crucial and important, interesting issues. And of course, today I'm not alone. We've got two wonderful guests that I'm mostly delighted to present to you. Mr. Anton Dikbo, how are you doing?
I'm very fine by the grace of God. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Jerick.
I'm fine.
So, would you let our viewers know you a little more?
My name is Lawson Jerick, and I'm an English teacher. I love the language, so I'm very delighted to be part of this program, though.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, my name is Antoine Dikbo. I'm the president founder of an association called CEP International, that is Culture and English Promotion Association, that promotes the speaking of English language in Togo, Africa, and the entire world.
Wonderful. So how many languages do you speak?
Let's say actually 4.
4?
Yes.
Wow, and they are?
That's why English, French, small Chinese, and then also local language we call Tui.
Wow, that's quite improving. And you?
I speak French, I speak English, I speak my mother tongue, that is Mina. I speak a little bit of Spanish as well.
I'm a good fan of Spanish. That being said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode. And today we'll be discussing and looking a little bit into the notion of language and how can language be a tool of development. Please, can you tell our viewers what language is?
Okay, actually, I can say language is just a communication method to allow people to get in touch each other whenever they want to be in communication, whenever they want to conversate, whenever they want to be in touch and talk and allow other people to be easy in anything they want to say.
And so you?
I just want to join him because he said everything. It's just a system of communication whereby words are put together to express our thought, our opinion, our feelings, and so on and so on.
Okay, apart from language, we also have tool and we also have development in what we are going to say today. Tool as an instrument or a device and development as in progress. So how can language be a tool, a device of progress in maybe a country, in a relationship, or in a society?
Okay, really, I can say for development, of course, we really need language can contribute really to the development of a country. For example, if coming from China, let's say if you want to come and invest in the country and you don't know actually the language they speak in the language in the country that you want to invest, it's become a problem for you. So I think if you are easy in speaking English or let's say French or other language that the country is speaking, I think it's gonna help you to develop exactly the kind of activities you want to do in the country.
Talking about English is one of the international official languages that we have today, spoken by many people, and of course, you too. The reason why we have Daily Trend Francophone Edition today, we have Francophones that also speak English. So that means, talking about English speakers, we don't have only native speakers, we have people who learned this language, which is quite really impressive, shows that the country is developing. Yes. That also gives you an idea of development through language. That's what we're talking about today, actually. So we have different type of languages. We have communication orally, in a written form,
yes,
all in a language. We also have these people that are, these blind people that are kind of deaf.
Yes.
They don't hear. That leads us to communication with sign, for example. I'm not really good or familiar with it, but do you know anything about this sign language?
Yes, of course. For example, when I used to study in the University of Lomé, I think we have some people that used to come, then they have some difficulties having with their eyes. Then some people used to bring them to the where they used to learn. They used to bring certain things that we call some material, whereby they used to put their hand on it and then be making some sign. Actually, I think we cannot understand really what they are doing, but I think they
understand.
They understand exactly.
Okay, so I think language is a very important thing in any society. Language can be a tool that can build up a society and also a tool that can tear it down. Every species, like every human being, every living organism have their way of communication. And, you know, human beings are the only category of these people that can actually communicate in a way that the other person understands using like their vital cognition, like using their brain to communicate in a way that even if I don't get to like say a lot of words, you get to understand me. For example, we have those mothers that actually, they're very good fans of irony. Like my mom can just say, get me water because I'm thirsty. And then I get to ask her, you're thirsty? She says, no, I'm not thirsty. I'm hungry. Something like that. Yeah. And like when you get to say, okay, you're hungry, let me bring you food. And she'll be like, she'll look at you in a way, like, eye contact, and you understand. That's also language, actually.
It's true. It's true. And I think, let's say, for example, especially what you're saying, our mothers or our parents, they normally used to do that because, for example, let's say we have a guest in the house right now, then, and maybe all of us, we are watching the television in the salon whereby we have a visitor. Instead of your daddy to be telling you to leave front of the guest, it's gonna be something. He will make some sign for you to understand exactly that you have to leave. But he can't tell you in front of the people that you have to leave the house. So I think it's also a sign for.
Mr. Jarek, you didn't experience that?
Yeah, I think it's an experience that I haven't lived, but I understand what you guys were saying. I live in an environment where they speak to me in words, plain words for me to understand, because our communication has a lot to do with, words and all kind of stuff, the signs as well. But what I live is that I live with my grandmama. And my grandma will always speak to me with words, what I'm saying, don't do this, don't do that, you know what I'm saying?
Very direct.
It's very clear and so on and so forth. But speaking of the language and development, I would like to talk a little bit about education. Because nowadays it's very, very capital and it's very, very fundamental to learn languages. And we know English is the most official language speaking in so many countries.
So many countries in the world, yes, that's it.
All across the world. And once you know how to speak it, you have so many opportunities that are open to you.
Yeah, like you can go anywhere with English language.
Of course.
Even today, I was just kind of surprised today to see something on my WhatsApp. There was this opportunity, African Compte, something like that.
Yes.
And one of the main required condition is people have to know how to speak English.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so languages are very important and we have to learn them. And the more languages you know, the more opportunities you have.
That's very interesting, very interesting. Like as I was saying, language also improves communication. And it's also a way of sharing ideas. For example, I want to tell you that I experienced this, and that. I can't do that without language. Like, even if I'm going through signs, I'm going through like maybe virtual communication, like trying to show you that this is what is going on, but without speaking. It's also language, actually. It helps us to share ideas, communicate, share our feelings. And that brings me to one thing, like I do hear in the society, like communication is key. Can you tell us anything about that? Like when talking about relationships and marriages, say communication is key. Why?
Yes, of course. For example, let's say that I want to date a girl right now.
Interesting.
I want to date. I'm not saying I'm expert in the domain. No, I just want to say something about that, right? Let's say, for example, you want to date a girl. I think you have to be in communication with that person. Anyway, we notice that so many people, they fear a lot whenever you want to date a girl. You want to, anyway, not even dating, but if you want to you want to sell a product right now, if you don't know how to convince your partner to be able to buy the item, I think it's gonna be very difficult for you to convince and tell him that this particular item that you're selling, you have to buy. So I think communication also when coming to the marriage side or being in couple with somebody, if you have words in your mind, I think you can convince, your partner to be able to know exactly what your desire,
That's interesting. Based on the fact that you were trying to communicate with us, which we understood that you might be having a spouse very soon. So, Mr. Jerry.
Yeah, I think when we say communication is a key, I think it's more like words are powerful.
Yeah.
I think words are part of the communication. if you have the right words and if you use the right words, it always touches people. It always touches people's heart.
Just like election campaigns.
Yes.
So if you know how to use the word, let's take the example of couple. I'm in a couple. If I know how to choose my words, if I know how to communicate with my partner, I will always be there to make sure that she's all right. You know, when you use the wrong words to your partner, it makes everything better.
Yes, of course, yes.
But if you know how to choose the words, that's where communication is very important. If you don't talk, if you don't discuss about matters, about situation, then sooner or later that relationship will go down.
So I think we can add also,
sensitive.
yes, why not? I think from the communication side in relationship, I think we can add also patience, because we have patience. You have to know how to talk with your couple. I think it can work too.
Yeah, speaking of patience, you know what I'm saying? It's just something that happened to me today. What happened? I was speaking with my aunt. My aunt was talking to me. I need something. I said, Aunt, you know, you promised me something. You're gonna have to give it to me. She's like, Sonny, you gotta be patient.
Patience.
You know what I'm saying?
Patient, of course.
And that's a very good key that leads to like every successful objective that you may set ahead for yourself. For example, learning a language, you don't stand up one day and just learn it. It takes steps, it takes processes, and it takes patience, especially. So we also said a lot, we were also trying to say that communication needs language. And to a successful communication, it's an effective language. And people can use language to do sorts of things. We can give the example of the Tower of Babel. Who remembers that? While the children of God were trying to build this tower to reach to God in heaven. And God was like, if I should leave these people continue with what they're doing, they're going to come here for me.
Yeah, I remember the story, of course.
And God was like, and Christians could even say that that's the origin of language.
Of language, of course.
Yeah, and God was like, let me just give these people quite some languages. So they don't get to understand each other. That brings us to the point of understanding. Language helps us to understand each other, actually. If I want to go for example, I want to go to a country, I don't know the areas. If I don't communicate with someone through a certain language, I wouldn't be able to sort myself out.
Yeah, speaking of which, I just want to step in a little bit with what you say. Sorry. You know, I want to talk about tourism, because if you want people to come into our country, if you want people to come and discover who we are and so on, we need to have this common language that we have to speak and everything. So, and if you know the language that is spoken all across the world, you also have the opportunity to travel all across the world to go to any country you want. Again, I just want to stress a little bit on English. If you know how to speak English, it's an opportunity for you to travel all across the world.
So if I understand, so it means if you don't get English language, you don't supposed to travel anywhere. Anyway, now my question is to Beatrice is like, for example, if you are a Chinese, you want to come to Togo and you want to make your business, so does it mean you have to learn our mother's tongue, our mother's language, or
like English language?
Like, let's say, if we're speaking of every.
A lot of Chinese, they come into our country, they do a lot of things in our country, but they don't know how to speak our mother tongue. They just only learn how to speak in English, and they're able to communicate with people all around.
But what I noticed
is that's the power of language.
Yes, but what I know is that what the experience I have on the field is that the Chinese, they never want to learn French, because they are comfortable with the English language.
So comfortable.
So they don't. That's the same thing when I went to Ghana recently. They don't. It's like the students from Ghana, they don't value French. They want English. They say, no, we don't forget about that.
French. Last year,
English, man.
Last year, I was in Ghana. Last year, I spent a whole year in Ghana, though. I was teaching over there. And I was surprised to see that there are a lot of Ghanaians who, some of them, they like to speak French a little bit, but they don't give more accent on it. They don't give more interest on the language, on the French, though. So that means we have to really learn a language, another language, which is English. Apart from the French, we know how to speak. A lot of Francophones that I've met, a lot of students that I've met, they're like, I don't want to speak it. English is not there. My French is okay. But I think it's just a mistake. They have to, clear up this mindset and, go up for it, though.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jerick. Any last word for our viewers?
Behind any language, there is a culture. Behind any language we speak, there is a culture, and we have to give ourselves the opportunity to learn more language. And the more language you know, the more cultures you are integrated in. It's very important. So I would advise my viewers to go and learn more languages, though. That's my last word.
That's your last word. Quite interesting. So Mr. Jerick is advising English speaking to anybody out there because it's very important, guys. Very, very important. With this, hold on to your point. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's your favorite program that we were just talking about language, the importance of language. Language, a way of communication. Language, a very important tool in any society. Something, an element that can tear down a society and that can build it back. A powerful tool for communication. So, Mr. Comfort, welcome back with us.
Thank you.
So we were just talking about language. So what do you have for our viewers today?
Okay, I think this is a very interesting topic because as we are gathered here, we are using a language. We are talking in English. I think without English, we should not be gathered here. So the first thing I want to say is that the language actually is a tool of communication. It's something that we can use to unite people. Mm-hmm. Without English, I couldn't know Mr. Just aside me, right?
So he's an acquaintance.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that's
no conspiracy.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I can say when you talk about language. And if I have to, I heard a lot of what they were tackling about the importance of learning language, and also Mr. Jerry was specifying the importance of knowing more languages, because the more you know languages, the more cultured you're gonna be.
Especially English.
And then especially English.
English, yes. You're speaking English on.
But let's talk about my language, because Lingala. Do you know Lingala?
So what's your Lingala?
Do you know Lingala?
I think that's from.
I think it's from Congo.
Congo, yeah.
Congo, yeah. From
and
Congo, yes.
what I want to tackle is the point that most of the time, sometimes we have artists that promote languages, because if we can talk about Lingala today around Africa, most of Francophone Africa, is because of artists, great artists like Fally Ipupa. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
You know Fally
very
Ipupa,
renowned
right?
artist.
Yeah, so they are promoting the language, and in somehow it's making the country known on the outside world. Mm-hmm. And that's I think what is interesting with languages.
Okay, so talking about Lingala, can you give us, for example, because I know very much that when we have a language, we have the formal aspect of this language and the informal aspect. For example, when I say, I'm a very good fan of English language, and somebody might just say, I would definitely go for English language. One is quite formal than the other, and that's why people mostly say that British English is too formal. But the American one is easygoing. Because someone might say, I'm going to be there in 5 minutes. Or I'm going to be there in 5. While someone who's British would rather say, I'm going to be there in 5 minutes.
So my question to Beatrice is that, so you yourself personally, do you prefer the English accent or the British accent? You know?
I'm quite in a dilemma, seriously.
I think
I love both accents.
That's quite a wide question, because we can worry about the accents most of the time, but I think what we have to know is that English or any language is only a tool of communication. As long as we are able to give the message, that's all right. Whether you may speak with a British, American accent. And for those who are native, that's a settled case. But those who are learning English, they have to make a choice. As for me, knowing that I have learned English, I made a choice whether I have to learn British or American English. But I prefer American English. That's slight, right?
English.
And that's what I prefer.
Americana.
And that's what I feel the most comfortable, actually.
Okay, and what do you prefer?
Yeah, personally, I prefer British English. Why? Because, when I was at the University of Lomé, I learned something in a subject we call Ang 105. It's like they used to talk about the first people that colonized the Americans, the British people. Yeah. So I say that the root of English, is coming from the British people.
That's
so
true.
they
Most people
taught
say
the
that.
American how to speak English. So I personally am always in time, in touch with British people. So I'm so easy in British English.
Quite interesting. So there is surely definitely close link between relationship between language and development. Because even to learn a language, you should develop learning the language. For example, if I want to learn English, I might start from ABCD to bringing two words together and then constructing a sentence. It's all a process, which means I'm progressing, I'm developing my way of speaking, understanding. Some people might even go from listening to music, watching films to improve the language. This saying, we could say that development is also like progress. That's a synonym.
Of
you
course,
noticed?
Yeah. I think progress is in an individual state.
Yeah.
Like it's more concerned to individuals, but development is concerning a community. Okay. So, for example, as for me learning English, I think it's a progress in somehow, because maybe I want to apply for a job, and then among the criteria it's required languages, or the fact of being able to speak two languages, it's an opportunity, it's a value for you. But when you are in a country, but I may say that, for example, in this today's situation in Togo, we have the adherence to Commonwealth.
Yeah,
and we may say that it's a measure of development, because we are promoting more partnership with English-speaking countries, and all that. We are migrating to development, actually. And that's the difference we can make between progress and development.
Yeah, talking about development too, we could say that the world is quite developing in terms of language, because we have people who have chosen not to speak any other language but their native languages. But today we have more than people, like I said, we have 1,132,000 people that speak English. And 450 people that speak French, or 40 that speak French. So we could see that people are kind of leaving their mother tongue to learn English.
But actually, it's not a self-desire.
No, like my point there is that it's like they're developing in terms of language. And that shows that actually language is a tool for development.
Of course.
Because you know that even learning more about language contributes to self-development too.
Yes. For example, let me add something. Actually, in my company, like the project I am doing now, that in partnership with so many students in Togo here, and university students, it's allow people to to communicate. It allow people to take part in a game whereby they used to ask them questions in the whole world. So that thing is like we are telling all the Togolese that they have to give the importance to English language, because the things that right now, my friend said it, now that we enter into Commonwealth, it means that so many opportunities will be coming to our country. Maybe very soon they are going to be, maybe let's say a British embassy that we don't have in Togo, but rather we have it in Ghana. You see, now that maybe those opportunities, I think it is now time for all the Togolese to wake up, that they support to give interest to the language. So it's gonna be, it's like now they have to do it. So for them to benefit something from it, that's what I want.
Okay, so I was just saying, like, I was talking about language, like people developing through language, and I don't know if you were trying to contradict me. Was it the case?
Not really. Yes, what I was just saying.
Oh, he just said yes.
Okay. I didn't want to contradict you. I just wanted to add a point on that.
Okay.
It seems like it's not a self-decision. It's what today's world, 21st century is requiring. Because if you are a young man, as long as you are growing up, at a certain moment you have to get a job, you have to make a family.
Sorry to cut you. Talking about job. So you want to get a job, and it kind of requires official ability of speaking official languages, actually, either French or English. And for example, you only speak Lingala, like you said. Do you think you'll get that job?
That's I don't think that's quite.
So
sure.
you agree with me? You agree with me?
I agree with you.
Okay, so go on.
You want me to continue now? Okay.
You can go on.
I wanted to say I totally agree with you. But the problem is that's what the world is requiring. If you are living in a village, I don't think you're gonna need English, because all around you in your community, everybody's speaking your language. Okay. For example, those who are in the village of Ewe, Mina, all that. Okay. But when you come into town, where the language that is taught firstly in school is French. That means you have to know how to speak French. Well, a company that employs, they need people who speak French, because you're going to interact with foreigners, for example. You don't foreigners, for example, as we are working in the same company, I don't speak Hewe. Maybe if you speak Chui, you say you speak
Yes,
Chui,
I speak
right?
Chui, yes.
I don't speak Chui. So we should have a common language on which we're going to interact.
Yes,
and
of
on
course.
that case, it's going to be English. So we are obliged in somehow to learn international languages. Yeah, because that's such good life, actually.
So my question to Beatrice too is that
you've got a lot of questions for me today.
Well, I think so. Does one day when I used to go to companies, to sponsor my program, somebody told me that is it important to us to promote the speaking of English or our mother's language? He's telling me that to him, we're supposed to promote the speaking of Ewe or Lingala, like I say right now. It's like we are following the white people. That why is it that we are living our mother's language and we are following the white people?
I just want to answer. See?
You really shot him when you said Lingala. You really shot him.
No, I think that's the consequence of the history. That's what I can say. We've been colonized. Where there has been a war, and especially the World War II. After the World War II,
yes,
we have seen that the USA was the greatest country. Was so powerful, and from there they started to promote the inventions, the scholars, everything, and that's why English became the most spoken languages around the world. But concerning mother tongue, actually, we should not be we should come back on that, because that's I just want to tackle I don't know if you know the International Day of Mother Tongue.
Yes.
On 21st of February.
Yeah, February.
And that day actually is to remind everybody of the importance of mother tongue, because there are some things that I may say that I may be unable to say in English, but that I have to be able to say in French. And maybe if we are discussing between Congolese people, if I don't want you to get the message, I have to speak in my mother tongue. And that's actually our roots. That's where it begins, right?
Yes.
Before coming out into the world, we have to know what is our mother tongue. We have to understand it. And unfortunately, most of young people, they are neglecting mother tongues because, it's now most of the time spoken
I think he has a point, because we have lots of people that travel to foreign countries today, and when they get back, they can't speak their native language. And except from the Yorubas, that's one thing I congratulate them about. They can go anywhere in any foreign country, and when they come back, they can actually even speak among themselves. They can speak Yoruba among themselves.
You are right. I think Beatrice is right too. Also, let's take the example of musicians.
Yeah.
The musicians, for example, if we go to, let's say, Ghana, a country nearby here, Ghana, I noticed something whenever they singing or they are acting films and movie, all those kind of things, they used to speak their native language.
Yes.
Surely.
They include they may speak, inside, they may sing in English, but they include a little bit of
like when you hear them communicating, they'll be like, I'm tired, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it is, like tweet, that's what I'm saying. So you can see, and I think they are even proud of it. And also, they have also a book, they have a book for it in Ghana. But I'm thinking, Togo, that's what I noticed. I never see any book like something, but Ghana is part of this, and
that's very interesting. Speech. They have a power of speech, and most of the time and then if they pass a message, whether it's be in a local language, everybody can catch it. So it's going to be more more value if they do it in local languages.
Okay, Mr. Antoine, you're a promoter of English. I could say that because you own an organization. I don't know something. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, my organization name is CEPA. That's CEPA International. That is Culture and English Promotion Association. It's an association that we created for the promotion of English language in Togo, Africa, and the entire world. What we do is that we normally used to send letters to schools for them to select best student English language to be in team of 10 students. Then the 10 students, they come after the tossing, after the press conference, they used to come in team, then be meeting each other. For example, Protestant will be meeting, let's say, Cool Lumiere or Sigma will be meeting other schools. Then at the final, they used to give a prize supported by the United States and Brazil, and also so many companies that are supporting the program. So definitely this Saturday we are starting the show, and with 16 schools taking part in the game.
Wow, that's a lot.
For a secondary side, and also 16 schools from the university side. So we are doing it's gonna be a hot game. We're preparing for that.
I also
if I
heard.
may understand, that's a competition.
Yeah,
debate
it's a competition.
It's a competition.
I also heard something about the challenge.
Yes, that's the name of the competition, challenge.
Okay.
Because the name of SEPA is organizing challenge competition. Challenge is the English language promotion quiz. It's a quiz that, for example, you need to ask questions. Let's say, who is the current president of the United States of America? The one that knows the answer is going to press the button of the machine. Then we'll answer the question.
Like
also
question pour un champion in French.
That's
right?
it. Question pour champion in French. But we purely everything's happening in English.
Okay, so that was.
So it takes actually general cultural.
Yes.
All right.
General cultural, grammar, vocabulary, spelling bee, jumbo word, and also oral expression.
That's quite
like
a lot.
we're doing actually.
Is it the first edition or?
No, 10th edition.
Third?
Yes, 10th edition. For the secondary side, second edition for the university side, yeah, and also the first edition for the companies. So we are going to do for the companies. So it means we can be.
Do they have time?
That's a long way to go. Even
Long way.
That shows that language is also a tool that is improving the educational sector.
Of course,
even in businesses, you get to communicate with your business partner and all sorts. And mathematics, they also use language. Even if the information and communication technology aspect, they talk about programming, it's also a language.
Of course, especially in
so you don't organize competition in that aspect?
No, for example, if you really take the aspect of general knowledge, we used to ask questions about those
based
kind of
on all of this.
All of them.
Oh, that's quite
Mathematics,
interesting.
for example, you say 2s plus 2s plus 4s. What is the answer? Which is given 8s.
Oh.
So I think that's quite interesting students that are needed there, because you have to be good in grammar, good in mathematics, good in.
So that's why, for example, they have, let's say, 15 students per team. So the 15 they are divided into sections.
Okay.
3 people can be good, in grammar, 3 from vocabulary, other from general knowledge and code. That's all.
Language could also help these our countries to get more improved, because the fact that the country speaks more than one language, more than one official language, shows that this country is also improving, and probably that could even lead to the country getting out of the HIPIC nations. Becoming self-reliant. Language also helps in building and boosting your brain, your memory, in terms of communication, self-expression, and a whole lot of things. And this brings us to the end of this episode. Definitely not the end of this episode. The Daily Trend Francophone edition catches on New World TV every Wednesday p.m. Repeats on Sunday at 7:15 p.m. You can also throw in your comments, chatters on YouTube. You can watch the playlist, or on Facebook at Daily Trend Francophone edition, TDT Daily Trend. And this is a Daily Trend.